You're sitting there right now, convinced you understand the world, convinced you've figured out how power works, how people operate, how to navigate your life without getting destroyed. But there are two minds that have transcended every limitation you're desperately clinging to. And if you're brave enough to hear what they see when they look at you, stay till the end, because most of you will close this before the real truth arrives. The weak always do. Ayano Koji observes you with cold precision. Every movement you make, every choice you defend, every moment you believe you're making progress, he's already calculated the outcome 3 steps before you've even started. He doesn't hate you for your weakness. He's indifferent to it. Indifference is far more devastating than hatred because it means you're not even worth the energy of his contempt. But Johan sees something different. While Ayano Koji catalogues your predictability, Johan catalogues your psychology. He finds the fractures in your identity, the lies you tell yourself about who you are, the parts of yourself you've hidden so deep that even you've forgotten they exist. And then he systematically exposes each one, watching you disintegrate from the inside while completely unaware of what's happening. You think you're complex. You think your depth makes you interesting, valuable, irreplaceable. But complexity is just another word for contradiction, and contradictions are vulnerabilities. Ayano Koji turns your contradictions into equations. Johan turns your equations into nightmares. The truth both of them understand is that you're not ready for anything. Not real power, not genuine freedom, not actual knowledge of yourself. You're a collection of reactions to stimulus, a pattern pretending to be an individual, a puppet believing it's pulling its own strings. And the moment either of them decides you're worth their attention, your entire existence becomes negotiable. If you're still here, like this video, because you've already admitted something to yourself that most people won't admit for years, that maybe you're not as in control as you pretend to be. Ayano Koji's greatest insight is that most people are operating from false data about themselves. They believe they're motivated by noble things, ambition, love, growth, but he sees through to the real motivations: fear, insecurity, the desperate need for validation. Your entire life is structured around running from pain, not toward anything real. He simply stops running, and that stillness is where his power emerges. Johan's greatest insight is darker. He knows that beneath every functional person is a monster waiting to be activated. Not through external pressure, but through revelation. All he has to do is show you yourself clearly enough, and you'll destroy yourself without his intervention. He doesn't need to manipulate you into darkness. He just needs to remove the lies that make your darkness invisible. Most people live their entire lives in denial about these truths. They construct narratives where they're heroes, where their suffering is noble, where their limitations are somehow meaningful. But these narratives are just high-quality delusion. They're the difference between understanding the game and believing you're playing a different game entirely. You want to believe that awareness protects you, that if you simply understand these concepts, you're inoculated against them. But understanding and immunity are not the same thing. In fact, understanding might be worse, because now you'll question every decision you make. Now you'll wonder if your thoughts are really yours. Now you'll experience the beginning stages of the fragmentation that complete clarity brings. Comment, "I'm ready," if you've ever sensed that the version of reality you've accepted might be a carefully constructed illusion designed to keep you functional and docile. Ayano Koji would tell you that your attachment to your own narrative is your greatest weakness. You're so invested in the story you've constructed about yourself that you'll rationalize anything to protect it. You'll ignore evidence, you'll reinterpret events, you'll lie to yourself with remarkable creativity just to maintain the coherence of your self-image. And he uses that attachment like a scientist uses a known variable. Johan would tell you something slightly different. He'd say that your narrative is already unstable, that the contradictions are obvious to anyone who's truly looking, that you're not actually protecting a coherent self. You're performing an exhausting theater production that's moments away from collapse. And when it collapses, he'll be there to document it, not out of malice, but out of pure scientific interest in how far a person can fall when their story finally shatters. Both of them see something you're refusing to see. That power isn't about winning at the game everyone else is playing. Real power is recognizing that the game itself is rigged in ways you don't understand. Ayanokoji's power comes from his willingness to stop playing. Johan's power comes from his willingness to become the architect of the game and watch others lose without ever understanding the rules. The sacrifice they've both made is the same, though they'd never admit they have anything in common. They've sacrificed the comfort of meaning, the illusion of inherent value, the warm feeling of believing their existence matters in some cosmic sense. And in exchange, they've gained something most people would call a curse, but what they recognize as necessity, the ability to see clearly without flinching. You can't do that. Most people can't. The human mind is designed to protect itself through delusion, to maintain coherence through lies, to survive through denial. Trying to operate like Ayano Koji or Johan while maintaining your current psychological architecture is impossible. You'd have to dismantle yourself completely, and you're too attached to yourself to do that. Share this video if you've ever caught yourself in a contradiction and realized that the explanation you gave yourself doesn't actually hold up under scrutiny. If you've ever suspected that your freedom is a performance and your autonomy is theater, you think you could survive what they've survived. The stripping away of delusion, the constant confrontation with harsh truth, the absolute knowledge that everyone around you is operating from a fundamentally inferior level of understanding. You think you'd adapt, you think you'd find meaning in the clarity, but you'd just be experiencing the first stage of a descent that would end in a place you can't return from. Both Ayanokoji and Johan have paid a price for their clarity, not in suffering. They'd argue they've eliminated suffering, but in exile, in the permanent separation from the comfortable illusions that let normal people function. They're not depressed or traumatized or broken. They're just operating from a different baseline of reality, and that baseline is incompatible with everything you call human connection. The final truth. The truths they speak aren't meant to elevate you. They're not here to inspire you or help you grow or unlock your hidden potential. They're here to break you, to shatter the convenient fictions you've constructed, to show you the architecture of your own cage. And most of you will experience that as tragedy. But they'd call it clarity, and clarity once achieved can never be unseen.